Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here, and we're back with our weekly recap of all things Injustice. This is our predictions for the week of September 21st, 2021. For reasons that we don't need to get into...
2023?
2023, not 2021. For reasons we don't need to get into, we're not able to film right now, so this video is being pre-recorded and will only go up if all the information is right, and that's probably all the info you need before getting into it, because you probably don't care that much about sort of the background of how we're filming it.
Yeah.
But anyways, the current challenge is Blackest Hawkgirl, and that is a 1-week repeat. The required characters are Batman, Joker, and Nightwing, who are available at the gold, silver, and bronze tier respectively. So kind of middle of the road in how hard it is to get them. It's likely you'll have a Batman if you've got a bunch of gold characters just because of how common he is.
Right.
So hopefully most people who want to will be able to complete the challenge.
Right.
Her passive is Necrotic Life Force, which is Hawkgirl receives 15% health back when anyone in the battle is knocked out, and any Blackest Night character who is knocked out on Hawkgirl's team will resurrect once with 20% health. She's got 1,240 attack and 1,360 health, and was last available on the 24th of November 2022. For some reason, numbers are escaping me right now.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So she's got high stats. They're uncommon base stats. They're not multiples of 50 or 100, so that 1240 and 1360 would still add up to a nice round 100 base, but it just interesting. Yeah. So if you want to see her the last time we used her team special specialist, there's a link in the description. And the last time we used her during her challenge week, before we gotten into trying to use her as sort of the main damage dealer, she was the support card as part of the best team with her. Mm-hmm. So going more with the recent trend, footage is of the Blackest Night team with her on it, but also with her as the special specialist. Mm-hmm. And the reason why the last time we did it like that was really she is part of what makes Blackest Night Flash so annoying. She gives him a free resurrection. His passive, it drives it up from a 25% health. Is it 25? 20% health. To 100% health because of his own passive.
Yeah.
So having her on the team is like having a second Blackest Night Flash for free. So if nothing else, just putting her on, if she did nothing and she just was dead space on a slot, like let's say you could only have two players on your team, she's giving you a third player and it's a Blackest Night Flash. Mm-hmm. So previously playing her as a support character, it was part of the reason was she doesn't have particularly good basics. She doesn't have particularly good specials. It's easy to gear her like a tank and then let her teammates do all the hard lifting. Teammates specifically, Flash. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to be playing a Blackest Night team, I think she's an important part, a necessary part, because it gives you 3 free resurrections that don't require any gear slots. Herself and 2 Blackest Night teammates. Mm-hmm. Her value becomes magnified by whoever she's resurrecting. But if you're playing a Blackest Night team, the best feature of it in Flash is inherently defensive with, a little bit of offensive potential, which is probably why in the past I didn't play the team much. So yeah, there's some offensive potential, but it's still a lot slower than teams that are all offensive and not defensive. So this week playing with her again as a special specialist, one of the benefits is that she gives decent damage from her special too. And unlike some of the later characters that have high stats like this, every single hit has the potential to knock out your opponent, giving all the benefits that come with being able to spread out your special to across multiple opponents. Mm-hmm. And it also allows you lots more choices for your third gear slot. So when I say third gear slot, right, we're saying Tantutotem, Master's Death card. So like we saw with Luchador Bane last week, if you're focused on a special that only knocks out the opponent on the last hit, Enchantress is a really great option. We're not limited by that anymore with her. The 2 best third options on a special specialist are probably Claw of Horse and Enchantress Companion Gear. And for her, what you're watching is Claw of Horse, and it's really super effective. It makes it easy to handle Astro Harness, easier, and it means the fight's maybe not as fast as Luchador Bane because the stack damage is just way too much. But it's still a lot of fun. I'm actually surprised. But I guess the other thing I should point out is that when she gives the benefit to Blackest Night teammates, if we're playing her as a special specialist, she's going to have the most offensive potential on the team because she's going to have Master's Death Card and Tattoo Totem. So then we don't need Blackest Night teammates to really highlight her ability, and that's why we're relying on the Hawkgirl Prime as an important secondary character, and Rebirth Raven, who's really amazing. I think if there's going to be some sort of platonic ideal, like back in the old days before we had Tattoo Totem, remember how we used to test out characters? We'd slot in, we'd have Raging Green Lantern and animated Harley Quinn to give them power generation to get whoever we were highlighting more power and get them to do their specials. Well, I feel like now a default way of highlighting one person who doesn't get a lot of synergy from her in-universe teammates is with Rebirth Raven and Hawkgirl Prime. Allows you a lot of swapping in. Lets Rebirth Raven be your secondary specialist by stealing the opponent's power. And it lets your primary specialist really shine.
So there we go. So this is the 174th week of a pattern that started on May of 2020. That's 4 complete cycles of a 43-week sequence and 2 weeks into our 5th cycle. And if the pattern holds, next week should be Red Lantern Hal Jordan. This week's multiplayer reward is Suicide Squad Joker Unhinged. His passive is Unhinged, which is the Joker can't wait to show you his toys. A powerful random effect will occur on his special one, and after Joker defeats an opponent team member, he drives them insane and they will fight for you with reduced health. Can be triggered twice if using a team of 3 Suicide Squad characters. He's got 1,400 health and 1,300 attack. Was last available on the 16th of February 2023. We're 142 weeks in a row of a consistent pattern for multiplayer rewards. That's 4 complete cycles of a 31 reward sequence and 18 in the 5th cycle, with nothing missing, unlike from the challenge cycle. Next week should be the overpowered super gear.
Okay. So he's got really high stats.
Yeah.
1,400 attack, 1,300 health.
And he sucks. He's terrible.
Yeah. All right, so the qualification at the end. So, but despite having high stats, if he had 0 passive, it would be better than this. The passive is actually detrimental to fights. Maybe I should skip. Do I need to skip past the first part? The random effect on offense, I'm not a big fan of that. So his shot can do poison, potentially power drain, power gain, or life drain. Makes it hard to plan around the team. Makes it hard to plan a strategy for when you tag him in, or when you do a special, because you don't know what's going to happen. The biggest part that makes him awful is that second part of his passive.
Yeah.
So when a card is driven insane by his passive, it has no passive and no gear effects. You get 1/3 of the health, and this makes him so bad for fighting. I mean, you will eventually win because the opponent that's driven insane will get knocked out. You'll be back to the team as if that opponent never showed up. But what it really does is slows down your fights. It makes fights last longer. Yeah. I mean, it's the same problem with the
waste
Astro
of your
Harness.
time because
Right.
He's good enough. His stats are high enough that you should be playing with gear, and a mix of gear and passives is how you get an advantage over the enemy.
Right.
So you're playing somebody with the same stats as the enemy, but with less gear and less passives. It's just a total waste of everybody's time.
Right.
And you're the only real person involved, so it's only a waste of your time.
Right. It slows down farming because if you're using Joker, so now you've got a weaker card. Unless you literally have no gears. I mean, there's no gear effects. Like whatever gear effects you had, you lose.
Yeah. So
lower damage output means a slower fight, which gives your opponent time to build up power. You're in Survivor facing much more powerful opponents, and so if you're in Survivor and you can time it perfectly so that someone else does all the work but Unhinged gets the knockout, that's one very specific use case where it is helpful. So maybe he could be useful there, having the stats of a much higher powered opponent, but the ability to play like that and try to manipulate the game and time it perfectly, hard to do. And I feel like when I'm in the fights that the more I try to do that, to play it a certain way to get something specific and not just lay out as much damage as possible, as quickly as possible, I end up making a mistake and I end up screwing up and losing fights that I shouldn't. Now, I do want to point out that the recent comment from viewer Cameron1072 mentioned that as bad as Suicide Squad Joker Unhinged is, he does have one very specific, not so rare use case where he adds something of value. As a teammate of Suicide Squad, Harley Quinn, because of her passive, he can still act as an attacker like Suicide Squad Joker, the regular Suicide Squad Joker does, as the attacker during her special 2 if you pick the Joker card.
Yeah.
And it's true. Because that's a really neat effect for Suicide Squad Harley Quinn. Does a huge amount of damage. I'm still trying to figure out how much value that adds when it's so specific. But in other cases, we're happy to, acknowledge the value of a character if it's doesn't help across the board, but with, say, specific team combinations where other characters are involved.
So that's like the one sort of really niche use for him. But it is a use.
It is a use.
I think the main advantage would be if you don't want to use the other Joker, right? And you specifically have like some other purpose for him or you don't have him yet and you've got this one. Then, it's better than nothing, but it's not great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the special week where, because we're doing this well ahead of time, we will not be able to comment on the packs because the pack sort of cycle is a lot more unpredictable.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be able to comment on whether there's any changes in the glitches because also unpredictable, although if we're going to make a guess, because nothing has happened for the last couple of years, that there isn't anything new.
Yeah.
Unless Google starts giving us trouble for what do you call it? Where it disengages, when it's
Google Play Store, like Google Cloud Save or whatever.
Yeah.
And last weekend's breakthrough, last but not least, should have been Killer Croc, Harley Quinn, and Martian Manhunter, which would make this coming weekend's Hawkgirl, Green Lantern, and Lobo. Link in the description to a thread in the Injustice Mobile subreddit from Devlin16 that has the complete breakthrough cycle there. And to finish up, we'd like to give a huge thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. That is Alexis M on the Your Message Here tier, Michael, Devries, Irvin, Ruiz, and Hoshi127 on the credited level, as well as the names scrolling past now who have supported us at some point during the pandemic. Thank you so much for your support, and thanks so much to all of you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Komoda.